Sub-resource locator. What is it? Sub-resource locator is a method. It's annotated with the path, but it's not annotated with get, post, put, and delete annotations. So what it means is that instead of actually handling the request itself, it's going to create what is called the sub-resource, which itself contains methods for get, post, and annotations. The reason you might want to create a sub-resource locator or sub-resource is to support polymorphism. What that means is that you can actually create a different sub-resource object depending on business logic, depending on the situation. For example, sub-resource locator could return different subtype resource dependent upon the role of the principal that is authenticated. So depending on who's authenticated, who's actually logged in, it will return maybe good customer resource object for good customer, and it will return bad customer resource the object for bad customer. So depending on the business logic, you could actually handle the request differently. That is the role of. That is the reason you want to in fact use the sub-resource locator. So let's see an example. So in this case, we have item resource class, which is handling /item request. And here it handles, and then it has a path annotation, so it will handle /item /content. Now here, it doesn't actually handle get or post request directly. Instead, it's going to create another resource object. So depending on the business logic, so it's going to call some business logic method, and depending on the outcome of that method invocation, it will return different resource objects. So item content resource 1 and item contents resource 2. So in our previous example, if this business logic is checking the role of a customer, if it's a good customer, it will return good customer resource object, and otherwise it's going to return bad customer resource object and things like that. Now if you take a look at this resource class, and that resource class is the one that contains method that handle get and put and method. So this is an example of sub-resource, and this is an example of sub-resource locator because it's actually locating a sub-resource object. Okay, so let's do exercise 3. So let's see exercise 3. Here we are going to play around with the sub-resource locator and sub-resource object. So let's actually run this application, simple sub-resource sample application that comes with the hands-on lab. So this is the one, jax.s sub-resources. So let's run the application. Let's actually build it first. And then we are going to run it. So right click, run as, and run on server. Starting Tomcat, and then we should see the browser. So what we're gonna see is the sub-resource example URI. So when I click greeting, depending on the time of the date, okay, it will either say good afternoon or good morning. So right now it's actually supposed to be good afternoon because right now in Boston, this is afternoon, 12:40. So if I click this guy, it should say good afternoon. Okay. If I run this application in the morning, then it should say good morning, and each of those things are coming from a different sub-resource. So let's take a look at the code. So here, let's take a look at the code. Here, let's go to the hello world resource. So if you see hello world resources here, and we have greeting. When we get the greeting, it is the it's actually returning a different resource object. Okay, so depending on the time of the day, If it is before noon, it will return morning greeting sub resource object. If it is the afternoon, it will return afternoon greeting sub resource object. So if I go to greeting source code over here, this is the one that contains get method. So here it will return good morning from sub resource. And if I go to the afternoon, same deal. If I take a look at the afternoon greeting here, this is gonna say good afternoon. Okay. All right. So so this is the code that we just take a look at that, and morning greeting and afternoon greeting sub resources. Okay. And here basically both of them are in fact the type of iGreeting, which contains a sayGreeting method. Okay, so for your own exercise, add a new method as following. So if the location is Boston, the return, yeah, I should actually just return a sub resource object that returns the hello from Boston. Otherwise, return a sub resource object that returns hello from world. Okay. By the way, we haven't actually learned the concept of this path param. This is how you can actually get the data as a variable. So after greeting 2, it will receive as a location. Okay, and what you're gonna do is here you're gonna actually add code depending on the location. You're gonna actually return the two different. I mean, you're gonna return different resource object. One is actually saying hello from Boston. The other one is saying hello from world. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give you guys about 10 minutes to do this exercise.